this is an application of the quantity theory of money and applying the quantity equation to solving numerical problems. In this question, we're given only one good, which is cookies, which is what the economy is producing. And we're given that the economy produces 800 cookies in 2019 and velocity is constant. Velocity of money is constant. In 2019, money supply is $2,000 and the price level is $5 for a cookie. And in 2020, money supply is increased by 5%. So there's a monetary injection and money supply is increased by 5% to $2,100. And money supply is now $2,100. So you're asked to compute a few things. The first is velocity of money in 2019 and the second is talking about a few things, computing the 2020 values of nominal GDP and price level, computing the inflation rate between the 2 years, and then again computing the inflation rate when technological progress causes real GDP to increase to 824 in 2020. So this is a good time to pause the video and attempt this on your own. So let's write down what we're given. First, we're given that Y is equal to 800, which is our real GDP. Velocity is constant. And in 2019, money supply is $2,000 and price level is $5 for a cookie. We're also given that for 2020, the Fed increased money supply to $2,100, and this is a 5% increase, right? So 5% increase in $2,000 is $2,100. So your life is made a little bit easier here with these things. Now, part A asks us to compute the velocity of money in 2019. So part A says, what is velocity in 2019? We're going to apply the formula which says this is P times Y divided by M and substitute in the values for 2019. So this is price, which is $5 a bushel, times real GDP, which is 800, divided by 2,000. So this is $5 for a cookie and this is 800. So what you get is 2, the number 2, which is saying that money changed hands or a typical dollar changed hand 2 times during 2019. Okay, so that's 2. That's the answer to the first question. Then part B says, compute the 2020 values of nominal GDP and price level and then compute the inflation rate between the 2 years. So to compute the inflation rate, we need to first understand what the prices are. So let's try to understand for the year 2020, what is nominal GDP? Nominal GDP is given by price times Y. Okay, but we also know that the quantity equation tells us that price times Y is just money times velocity. These things are equal. So if we know what money times velocity is for 2020, we can then report that answer as P times Y, which is nominal GDP. So substitute in the value of money supply and velocity. Velocity is given to be constant over these years, so we can use the same value here that we got, which is 2. So money supply is in 2020, it is 2,100. So we're going to say this is 2,100. And this is going to be multiplied by velocity, which is 2. And so 4,200 is the value of the nominal GDP in 2020. Okay, so this is one answer. Then the question is saying, what is the price level? Okay, so in 2020, what is the price level? Now, price level can be computed as money times velocity divided by y, okay, which is equal to, we didn't say that we were producing more in this year, okay, so we're still producing 800 cookies. So money times velocity we know is 4,200. So we're going to divide $4,200 by 800, which gives you $5.25. So the next thing we want to do is calculate the inflation rate. And the inflation rate equals, it's the percentage change in prices between the 2 years. So it's going to be the price level in 2020, which is this guy, 525, minus the price level in 2019, which we are already given as $5, divided by the price level in 2019 times 100%. So if you substitute in the values, this is 525 minus $5 divided by $5 times 100%, which is equal to 5%. Okay. Now notice prices have changed exactly by the same magnitude as the change in money supply. So in our question, we were given that money supply changes by 5%. And so what is the change in the price level? That is also 5%, or inflation is 5%. So this is basically reinforcing the idea that we had, that the quantity equation was illustrating. So the money supply changed by 5%, and inflation, or the change in prices, is also 5%. Remember the idea in the previous video which said that if the central bank increases money supply, the result is inflation. There's going to be a proportionate change in the price level with the money supply in the long run. So that's what is illustrated here. Okay, now let's go to our third question, which is saying, suppose technological progress causes Y to change and to increase to 824 in 2020, then compute the inflation rate. So again, we're given the same things. Okay, so we're still given Y is 800, V is constant, and in 2019 we're given money supply is 2,000 and price level is $5 for a cookie. And then for 2020 we are given that the Fed increases money supply by 5% to 2,100. Okay, so for this third part, we're saying that in the year 2020, output has increased to 824. That's what we're given. And we are asked to compute the inflation rate between 2019 and 2020. So what we know in 2020 is that the price level is given by money times velocity times divided by Y, which is equal to 4,200 this guy, right? This was 2100 times 2 divided by, now y is 824, which is equal to $5.10. So the inflation rate is going to be equal to the price level in 2020 minus the price level in 2019 divided by the price level in 2019 times 100%, which is $5.10 minus $5 divided by $5 times 100%, which is 2%. So what this illustrates is that this type of an example illustrates some sort of takeaways from the quantity theory of money. So we can say that if real GDP is constant, real GDP or Y is constant, then the inflation rate equals the money growth rate, which is what we saw in part B. But if real GDP is growing, which was part C, where it was growing, it had grown to 824. If real GDP is growing, then the inflation rate is less than the money growth rate, right? So in the first scenario here, we had money growth rate was 5% and the inflation rate was also 5% because real GDP wasn't growing. But in the second scenario, when real GDP was growing, then the inflation rate came out to be 2%, which was less than 5%, which was the money growth rate. So 2% is less than 5%. Okay, but these numbers can vary, but these are the important takeaways. And the bottom line is that economic growth increases the number of transactions, and the same money growth would be needed for these extra transactions. So excessive money growth would cause inflation.